Whether you're a suburban athlete or an Olympic champion, you've got to work hard to get results. We've put over 15 years experience into developing Active Man, combining vitamins, minerals and proteins. Active Man helps provide you with the nutrients you need to optimize performance and assist recovery. Discover the Active Man range, now available. Active Man, power up.
Welcome to this week's Power Progress podcast, and this week I've got an interesting guest speaker, Aaron Swales, who's a gym owner in my local area. And of course, I'll let Aaron come into a bit more detail about that. How are you doing, mate? You good?
I'm great, mate. How are you?
I'm good. I'm actually in my conservatory today because it's a lovely day, which is very unusual up in the northeast. We get a lot of, I'd say, just quickly, as a comparison to South, because I'm originally from Portsmouth, in the winter down Portsmouth, you get a lot of sort of muggy, rainy days in the winter, but up in the northeast, you get a lot more sunny, crispy winters. So I do prefer the winters, but this time of year, I actually prefer the south because it's a bit warmer than what it is here. I think it's something like 10 degrees. But anyway, that's sort of, we spun off a little bit on that. The reason why I've actually did that is because you're not originally from the northeast. You're originally from Germany, is that right?
Well, I was born in Germany on an army base, and then moved to Ireland, then Sussex, and then up to North Yorkshire. And then I moved up to Newcastle for university, and I've just been stuck here ever since.
Wow. So is your mum and dad English?
Yes, yeah, both English, yeah.
Ah, okay. Can you speak German at all?
A little bit, but not enough to get by, like, definitely not. I've got Guten Tag, and that's as far as I've got.
I'm saying it'd be really interesting. But yeah, so I think a good angle to go at is I'm not a gym owner, and I've never had any intentions. I've sort of dabbled to see what it's about, but you being a gym owner, let's start that story of what's led you towards being this gym owner. Where did it start from?
Well, it's funny actually, because one of my clients said to me the other day, you know, everything you've ever done in your life has sort of framed you for running a gym. So, well, I only just saw it as when I became a personal trainer. So I became a PT for a premium health club, and just grew a one-to-one business there. And I actually loved getting up early, seeing people and speaking to people. That's what I love doing.
Yeah.
But as I went along, I was doing about 45 to 50 sessions a week, which is a hell of a lot of one-to-one sessions. But when you know, it's that cliche thing, when you love what you're doing, you're not really working. And
Yes.
to be fair, when you're stood talking to people, giving them exercise, it isn't actually a hard job, let's be honest. But I'd had previous hard jobs, being a debt collector and a doorman and all these different things. They were hard jobs.
Yes.
This was nothing. So I grew that business up, and I was fully booked. And I thought, well, you know, where's that next step going to be? I had a mate of mine who runs a couple of gyms, and he's very much saying I wouldn't do it, stressful and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
So actually I went on to online training originally. I opened up a business called Virtual Trainer, which we grew quite well. And that was China, Australia, San Francisco. I had clients, a lot of Scotland for some reason. There's a lot of people in Scotland. And we had a bit of a falling out with the place we worked. They didn't like that I had a secondary business as well as working there.
Yes.
And really, I don't know how you sort of experience it, but working on a computer all day isn't really my thing.
No.
It's quite a hard job then. It becomes difficult.
Yeah, and it's I'm a fidget bum, so I don't like sitting down for too long, if I'm honest. So I'll go off a spring on. I'll go off my side of that in a sec. But yeah, just carry on with that.
Yeah, so you know, I did that for a couple of years and made good money. I could live and enjoy myself. But what I was really looking for was that freedom where I didn't have to work so many hours. And actually what I'd done is put more work on myself when in an online business and a face-to-face business. So over the time, I left the health club I was at, went self-employed into another little commercial gym. And then 2 years later, we hit a lockdown. I thought, hey, you know, I'm not risk averse. I'd give anything a go. So I thought I might as well just open my own gym. Everyone else is going through this difficult time of gym owners and places being locked down. I might as well look now and try and do my own place. So that's what I did. During the lockdowns, I was looking for facilities, trying to find somewhere good to do. Found somewhere in the August. And then by the December, we kitted it all out. We'd done it all out nicely. And we're ready to open in the December of 2020. And then 2 weeks later, we had to close for the last lockdown. So I was like, oh, it's been cut from me before we even got started.
Yeah.
I think we only had like 40 members at that time as well in December. So we were opening with 40 members. So we closed, we reopened in April, and we've been flying ever since. So it's just over a year long now. And it's literally the greatest move I've ever made. I love seeing people, speaking to people. Got a great team of PTs as well who love being in that environment as well.
That's really important. Yeah.
And then it was also that freedom piece was actually, I still got that owning a gym. Yeah, I have pressure of going in and making sure the place runs well, but I can come and go as I please basically a lot of the time. And that is that freedom section. I love being there, so I love going there more. I don't do 40 hours a week. I do 100 and something hours a week, but I love being there. And that's what's led me to that point, really. I wanted to have something for myself that delivered the very best personal training service in the UK. Yeah. So I've seen how every other place does it, and they do it wrong in my eyes. From your premium health and fitness brands to your budget gyms, there's always something missing. And because I've been across all those different places, I've sort of put it into one place for our specific demographic as well.
That's great. Something I want to cover actually, because what springs to mind, obviously you decided to do it during the first lockdown, or during that, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And you was looking around. Did you find it easier for bartering for premises at that stage?
Yeah, because nobody was looking for to rent anywhere. No one was looking to start a business up during that time, and so landlords were struggling to find tenants, basically. Yeah. So yeah, I got a good lease. I got a great solicitor who called me Mr. Positive, and he was Mr. Negative. So if anyone's ever dealt with a solicitor, they're literally, there's no grey areas. It's like, Aaron, you can't do that. Aaron, you can't do this. Why not? Why can't I do that? So he was more like keep me in line a lot of the time. But yeah, we got a great deal for our lease, and so that solidified the business, which is that's a really powerful point of the business. If that lease is, grey area or anything like that, that can be a big risk for a gym owner, really.
And your solicitor, was that someone you already knew, or was that someone you found?
Just someone I found, yeah, out of nowhere. Just I was very, very lucky. All just clicked together nicely. The location where we are in South Gosforth, in Newcastle, that was very much a lucky find in a prime location, just down from the premium health club we worked at previously. Yeah. So everything was linked together quite nicely.
Often the world does that to you, doesn't it? Sometimes it's pulling you or it's pushing you. So either pushing you away from something you should be doing, and it's pulling you towards something what you should be doing. And I suppose as you was piecing all these together, you kind of built that momentum. One more thing which springs to mind, when you was obviously set it all up with your solicitor and you went for this premises, did you put in there a little bit of a get out clause for if the gym's shut and it didn't work out? Did you have them in place? Or was it kind of expecting, another lockdown, as it were? Yeah.
So if anyone's had any experience with tenancies and stuff, you've got to have get out clauses based along your lease, just for your own security, really. So that they were negotiated in. What I did try and push my luck with was a COVID get out clause. But they told me where to go for that one, really. They said, no, it's not a thing. Do one. You're like, all right, okay, give it a shot. But
you would have been one of them that when obviously the lockdown happened again, you wouldn't have had the privilege of having, the grants and stuff like that, because you were a fresh business, as it were. So that's why I asked that question. But you obviously at least done a contingency that you knew you could survive getting by should that have happened, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So we couldn't even furlough our team either, because they had to be employed before October, and they weren't employed until December. So I had to carry on paying them, and then we had to then, adapt. And then we went back to online training, but very differently than what I was doing before with my existing clients, where we learned out all our kit. We kept small group training as an offering. We kept large group sessions as well. And so it was the same model, just online. And then we kept our fees the same for all our members who wanted to stick around. And then, it was just that 4 months of getting through that and battling through. But it also gave us 4 months where we were able to grow as well. So it was sort of like a blessing in disguise. I sort of see it as if there wasn't a global pandemic, I wouldn't have opened a gym. I don't think it would have been, this has just accelerated that trend for me. So everything sort of landed in place quite nicely.
Yeah, sometimes it knocks you out of your everyday pattern, what you think you're like doing, and it makes you realise what maybe you want to be doing instead. So maybe that was a little bit of a, if you like, a light shining for you to go, this is actually what I think I want to be doing, and you just went with it, which is fantastic.
Definitely. I think, taking the risk is really important, but also, like with that solicitor, you've got to have people in your corner who are guiding you and making sure you're not going to mess it all up. So I have a business advisor called JC who, he's very much black and white and tell me, don't do this, don't do that. It's guided by his mistakes previously. So for anyone who's been successful, if they've done it by themselves, I think that's a unicorn moment. You've generally got people there guiding you and mentoring you along the way a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, that's already you're sort of going into maybe a really top principle, and that is, obviously, if you want something, it's so important to find people who's already done it and learn from that person, whether that's someone or whether that's a business coach. I think that's the fundamentals, isn't it? Because you probably got some real golden nuggets before you even started from doing that, I'm sure.
Yeah, everything from, so as a PT, you think you're a business owner a lot of the time, but actually what you're looking at is how many sessions you're delivering, do I make an income, and that sort of thing. As you move into owning a facility or a bigger infrastructure, you then have to look at, well, I need to make X amount of pounds a year to pay rent, to pay bills, to pay staff. We need to hit the VAT threshold. How do we, accomplish that? Then you've got to understand how your marketing's going all the way up. And so there's so many different facets to the business that you then become a business owner looking at the whole thing from above, not just being in it, working in it. Yeah. So that business it actually operates better without me there, because I was getting in the way a lot of the time. Everyone just tells me to do off most of the time. So, but then I know it's working perfectly. Everyone's got a role there. I've mentored and guided our staff to take over certain roles so they can do well and feel part of that business and be a cog in it. So yeah, being a business owner, I think for a lot of people, they think it's about how much money they're earning, but actually is the business moving towards the original goal you had planned? Yeah. Is it making the impact you wanted it to make? Is it financially viable as well? All those sort of factors really.
Yeah, I think the other difference, what you've just kind of highlighted there is, they call it the break-even point, but I almost see it like the sinking sandbar. When you're just PTing, that sinking sandbar is quite high. You can get away with quite a lot before you start sinking. But when you are a business owner, like you said, and you've got all the overheads and you've got all these things to consider, you have to put that before everything. So if you haven't got that sinking sand point or that break-even point where you're going well above, then you're not even going to start in the first place, because you have to put that in place. So that's so important. How often do you have to assess that? Is it something you do monthly? Is it something you do weekly?
So I keep a good close eye on some of our KPIs every week. But then we have a quarterly review as well. And then obviously a yearly review where we just retarget for the next year. But what you were saying there about that break-even point is a lot of the time as well, in a progress way, and obviously that's what you deal with. People look at people in your exterior, in your circle. They'll look at what your business is, and they can either help you progress or diminish what you're doing. And a lot of times they'll look and go, oh, you're a PT, you're doing okay. Yeah, that's great. When you're a gym owner, for some reason, everyone thinks you're a multi-millionaire. I don't know why this is the case. You've got X amount of members, you charge X amount of pounds, you must be raking it in. Well, actually, no, you make more money being a one-to-one PT than you will do being a gym owner. I can guarantee you that. So if anyone is thinking about doing it, you've got to be prepared to take that cut as well. And then be prepared that people are going to sort of get at you and go, you're doing great, man. You're making loads. Not, my rent's X amount and this, that, and the other. But then also people start out as well. This is the other factor you got to look at. People think about opening a gym and how much they're going to charge. I've had quite a few people ask me, and people are quite interested how we've done it. And they'll go, right, we're going to charge 100 quid a month, let's say. It's going to be unlimited sessions, all sort of stuff. Okay, well, how many people do you hold in your gym then? Oh, maybe 100 people. All right, well, that's going to equal X amount. And then you've got this to pay, that to pay. You've got to really strategically plan it in instead of just coming out with these numbers. So our memberships may be slightly more expensive than the people around us. and we've got to deliver a better service because of that, but it's designed because of our costs and everything else and the plan forward. So yeah, a lot of people are sort of gung-ho it and just wing it, but actually we got to do a lot of design work beforehand.
And the other good thing, what you've done, of course, you've created this business where you have an element of time freedom, which is quite intuitively, it's quite good for me to know that, because a lot of people I know who have their own business, have their own, if you like, establishment, end up kind of getting stuck in it. But they're the one operating the whole system. And they've tried to leverage, and they've ended up just becoming a gym owner and a stuck PT, as opposed to actually being a gym owner, given that freedom. You can dip in and out if you want to do personal training and do it in blocks. So that's quite inspirational to hear that, which is pretty good, you know?
I think there's the two sticking points to that a lot of time with people is when I started with all my clients. They all came to my gym. And so they're so used to training with me that that's the only person they want to train with. And we had some difficult conversations with members when other trainers that I've trained up started doing their sessions about, oh, we only want you to train us. And you've got to have those difficult conversations. But at the same time, our growth was so quick that any new people coming in would happily build trust with all the other trainers that fit within the system. Yeah. So a lot of the times it's because that trainer doesn't want to upset their previous clients who've been so loyal. But actually, you're not, you've got to help yourself at the same time. If you're coming in every day, every week, getting tired, your service is going to be terrible. Really, when I was doing 45, 50 sessions and people start leaving and you think what they're leaving for, it's because I'm shite. I'm tired. I'm doing a crap job. So yeah, that's one sort of factor to it. The other side is, what is that end goal? Can you actually give away any responsibility? And a lot of times people fear giving over, oh, no one's as good a coach as me, and no one's good at, what happens if they're better than you? What happens if you've done it for 14 years and you're old in the tooth and you've lost a bit of motivation, and all these younger guys come in and maybe a little bit more positive and a little bit more engaging than you are? Is that maybe the case, So I quite easily let go of a coaching role, and I was still guided by JC as well when he was going through it, I was happy to give over coaching sessions because my job was better spent in sales and membership sales and these sort of things. So that was the growth of the business. And now just currently, I've got another guy that we're training up who's taken over that role. And that's actually harder for me to give away than the training was, because you think that's the bloodline to this business. Yes. If we haven't got that right, then it all goes to crap. So that's why we check in every week on KPIs. He actually checks in daily with me to make sure that it's all going smoothly. And I just potter in and out every so often, really, with that.
Yeah, I guess the other good thing is it shows that you've got everything in place and you're almost taking yourself out of the business where it runs itself, which is why it's put you in a good position to now start replicating what you're already doing. Is that right? Is that where you're at? Yeah.
So I don't know what it is. I don't have, when people have goals and they say, I'm a plan 10-year, 5-year and all this sort of stuff. I'm terrible at that. I'm a more in the moment sort of guy. So I'd say it was a month and I thought I'll open my own gym. It had been sat in the back of my head, but never really actioned it. And now it's only the last couple of months I thought, actually, I could probably do this a few more times. I reckon we could open more up. And someone said, as I mentioned before about your circle and people going, you're not making enough money, you're not doing this. Well, that's not what it's about at all. It really isn't. It's more about the impact we have on people's lives. It sounds really cliche and a lot of people say it's bullshit, but actually the impact we've had on the people that have come into our gym, because if anyone doesn't know, it's called the Confidence Coach. It's not the get shredded and lean and 15 or anything like that. It's about helping people with their physical and their mental health, giving them a way out of everyday life. So people lose weight, they tone up, but they want to come because they want to be part of a community of people as well. So the impact we have is massive, and the market is set to increase by 5% in the next couple of years. And that 5% of people that join the market are not gym goers. They're not people who want to get shredded. They're people who are scared of gyms, who've never used a gym in their life. So that's where we've got to make that big impact to get them started even on their journey into fitness. So, and that's not just Newcastle, that's everywhere. But I think, well, first, let's dominate the Northeast area with what we do. The people who do their shred, I've got gym owner friends, they're doing their shreds and stuff. They do a fantastic job of that. But we just prefer this side. And I think that's where we're going to sort of excel into. And yeah, we've got, I want to be the biggest, best personal training provider in the UK. That would be a great starting point. And then whatever's after that.
Is, before I become the busy lifestyle coach, before I went back to just using my name, I was the body confidence coach. So yeah, what's really interesting is we're very similar in terms of, like, the reason someone asked me, why do you like personal training so much? And if I had a choice between one-to-one and a big group, whilst I like groups, I'll take one-to-one any day. And that someone said, why do you like it so much? I like the thought of getting someone who hates exercise, if you like, got maybe health problems, whatever it is, not to a level where they can't do anything, but they've been given that, oh, you've got high blood pressure, you need to sort something out. And be able to get in their head to change one or two things, to then take them a year down the line to them changing everything, to like completely change their habits, be a completely different person, they'd be more productive at work. For me to see someone go through that journey and that I've contributed and helped into that, there's no better feeling. And I don't think you get that if you're in a big group. You don't share the experiences the same as if you're taking someone on a one-to-one, week in, week out. So that's where I can heavily relate to you in terms of the mindset, getting their diet right, getting their exercise and encouraging and all that sort of side.
I agree that, your one-to-one is great for people to have a real bespoke effort. But we do small group personal training, and we have 6 people in a session. And we class it as this personal training within a small group. Yes. And there's so many other benefits to being able to do that as well. So you can still have a one-to-one service. We can have 6 people doing 6 different entire things, but be able to coach them, and they're able to chat. Normally in this industry, let's say you're 20, your client might be 50. You haven't got a lot in common with that person. And some of the obstacles they face is that they're scared of going in, or they're scared of looking stupid in front of other people. Yeah. But actually, if you're on 5 other people in your session who are exactly like you, being coached by that 20-year-old, for example, then they feel more comfortable. They're engaging with other people who are similar to them as well. So they've got a lot more in common. Yes. And then become more relaxed. They train more frequently. They've got more flexibility to train as well in small group training.
Teamwork, all them.
Yeah. So there's pros and cons to both. Yeah. But we find definitely, because a lot of our members struggle with flexibility. So if someone wanted to train me at 6 o'clock at night when I was one-to-one, sorry, I'm fully booked then. Oh, that's the only time I can train. Where in a small group environment, I can book in from 6:30 in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, anytime across the day. Yeah. And I can do it just 5 minutes beforehand. So we give people that flexibility to be able to do that a lot more. And so, yeah, from a business perspective, I would definitely look at, as we go back, strategically plan out what's it going to look like. That's definitely worth it. But I used to love one-to-ones. I've trained rehab people with MS, post-stroke, post-heart attack, and made some amazing changes for people. So I did love doing that, but it was time to move forward a little bit further and take it up a notch.
Yeah, and obviously I totally agree with you with the groups, because I do the HIIT classes and I do it with them, and that's something which is, for me, look, when you go back to looking after yourself before you can look after others, I've structured the business for myself that it serves me and it's going to serve others, because it's something I want to do indefinitely. So I block out so many PTs in a week, what I know I can handle. I do my group class, what I do once a day, and I do it with them, because that gets if you like, for me personally, it does my HIIT side of things and my cardio. But obviously it serves them, and I've got a few stretches what I do, which they also bring in. So that's all like my service base. And then I use the app for if someone's around the country and they want to just train me on the app. Or some people I train as a hybrid, where I'll do a mixture of the app and in person, because some people, they require a certain level of coaching. Some people happy to do it themselves. Mm-hmm. So that's where the app will go in really well, because obviously I just set up the meal plans, do their programs, we check in every now and then, they get the results, they're happy. So that's all the infrastructure I do. Should that ever become, eventually that I'll become a business owner, like I have my own establishment, who knows? You never know. But I think, like you highlighted there, there's no fixed way. It's a way what you feel will work, and your system obviously really works. I can hear that from your passion, which is absolutely fantastic, and it's giving you freedom, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. And I love what you said there about doing it indefinitely, because when I became a PT, it was very much like, that's not a job, that's not a career. But I think now it's such a huge part of people's health and fitness. That's literally, before we enter the NHS, this is where we should be spending our time. And as the years go on, you will find that it's probably going to be more funding put into the fitness industry that's going to make an impact, because that, as soon as we get this bit right, the relief on the NHS is a little bit less. Obesity is not a bigger thing anymore, and so there needs to be a lot of emphasis here. So this is a career move now for a lot of people, and the way we do our employment is we actually employ all our PTs. We give them a career path to do that, because we want them to have security and things like that. Because as a one-to-one PT and you're self-employed, 1 week you might have loads, next week you've got nothing. And so no one can get a mortgage with that. No one can do anything like that. So we wanted to have some security for our staff to say, look, we're going to look after you, you look after us. And it made a great business model then. You've
created a good win-win there. The interesting part is, and you only know this in time, is what is your timeline with your employment? How long will they stay with you? So that'd be an interesting one to see. Is it going to be 5 years? Is it 3 years? Because what I found in experience with, if they are just self-employed people coming to your gym, they don't tend to last very long before they'll go elsewhere. Whereas I think if you're nurturing them and you're doing it as a win-win, they getting some out of it, you getting some out of it, getting stability, I think you're going to have more of a shelf life with them. And I can certainly see that from listening to you.
Possibly. You think, some people might be there to stay, maybe in 2 years, people might leave. But even if they do, I want them to be able to go away, be able to do their own thing if they wanted to, and be the very best version of a PT. I wouldn't want them to leave and go and do a different job.
Yes.
Because that's what they love doing, personal training. So take them up to a level where they can do it better by themselves if they want to, or just stick around and do good for us. Some businesses get stuck with the same staff, and sometimes you do need to get rid of old and in with new. But currently we're in a great place. I've got a fantastic team. Everyone's amazing. People step up to cover and help out and do extra days. It's an absolutely amazing team. But everyone was having this conversation with me, barber, and he was, it's about culture a lot of the time. Is everyone there as a team effort? Is it all going towards the same mission that business has got as well? But your self-employed lot don't, because they're out for themselves all the time, which is understandable because they've got bills to pay. So that becomes a very different culture then.
Yeah. I feel like we've covered the importance of the business owner and having the right people, like the solicitor. We've covered about having a good team, whether that's obviously people in-house, also your clients, they're your team. People come to you. We've kind of tackled a little bit with finance in terms of, you need to find your ceiling, like that, stop that sinking sand, that break-even point. Finance, so just to finish off before we go, what springs to mind? How much capital do you need, if you like, before you started? Did you have to consider that, in case of this happens, how long could I last with the finance already had? Or was it purely you didn't have anything?
Being a successful one-to-one, relatively successful one-to-one trainer, and because I live on a shoestring most of my life,
so we had to move inside because the conversation was getting very hot, as well as the sunshine up in the northeast. So where was we, Aaron? Well, what was we talking about, so we can take off where we left?
So you asked about capital and getting started within the gym. Getting hot, but it's just you with your vest on, mate. That's what I feel a bit overdressed here. First thing I was going to say was, when you find a location and you go, you've got a vision of how you want your gym to look, let's say, that's going to cost X amount of pounds. Where some people would go, I just need to put a few kettlebells in, a couple of dumbbells, just get some matting in, and I'm off. That could be a really cheap budget idea. But my vision of what I'd seen in other gyms, of what they'd done well and what they'd done wrong, I wanted to have something a little bit more premium. So it did cost me a lot to get started up first. So I got a couple of loans for myself. and any capital we had remaining as well from the business that I'd already had. And then just went to town, painted things. Flooring is the most expensive thing you'll ever come across. And then gym kit, you've got to get a good supplier, but there's always something wrong and something missing. And then one thing that was said to me was, most gyms look the same. You know, when you go into a gym, as long as it's clean, tidy, and, you know, mine's got black walls, it looks quite funky. But outside of that, what does that look like? What does that feel like? So your toilets, your reception area, your coffee area, any sort of welcoming areas. So we spent a bit of time and money in those areas to make sure it was above board. So it got a different premium feel to it. So all in all, I think we had like 130 grand to throw at it, and to give something really good, to make sure we could start off in the right direction. But yeah, that was like, I hate spending money. I said before, I live on a shoestring. So when it comes to buying stuff, I just bought 2 new racks and a couple of extra bits and bobs. I hate spending money, but yeah, you have to. And actually part of our business is to have parts of our profits reinvested back in the business to make it grow and be better. That's the actual point of the whole thing. If you try and cut costs, it generally just goes to shit, and then people are unhappy and they leave. You've got to constantly be reinvesting back in the spending. So yeah, that's been a hard push for me, really.
Nice one, mate. I know what, it's been really insightful talking to you today. And before I put you on the spot here, actually, but have you got any final thoughts to someone who is a little bit scared, but they really want to set up their own gym? Is there something you can tell that person, a little golden nugget maybe?
I can only give from my experience. And I don't know if it's a negative way of thinking, but I always think, what's the worst that can happen? You know, as long as you don't have anything, you know, linked against your house and stuff, what's the worst that can happen? There's always going to be a job available at the end of the day. So a lot of people go through fear, but God, just give it a shot. Because when I'm sat on my rocking chair at like 8-year-old, I want to at least tried it, you know, and I think that's really important. Just give it a shot. If that's what you want to do, just try it. And if it fails, fuck it, who cares? Yeah. But at least you tried, but you'll fail if you don't try, won't you? So
nice shot. We got it out here. That's good. So, no, it's good. I'll have to pop in your gym. I'm super excited to see it, mate. And obviously I'll get to catch you in person. But for now, have a good day, mate. Really appreciate being on today.
Thanks for having me on, mate. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.